So the question is, how do you bring a building down symmetrically? Well, we have to remove all 80 columns within a fraction of a second in order to do that. So the question before us is, can fire accomplish that? Dr. Hulsey has said, no, we know that fire is an imprecise process. It's an organic process. It moves through the building, burning the fuel, available fuel, in 20 minutes in a given area and looking on for fresh new fuel sources. So when a building collapses due to fire, and never has a high-rise collapsed due to fire ever in the 100-year history of high-rise fires, where we have almost 100 examples of much hotter, larger, and longer-lasting fires in these buildings, not one has collapsed. Yet this one collapses neatly into its own footprint, as you can see here. So how fast is this building coming down? We do have an analysis of this from David Chandler. Is David back online? When we get David online, he's a physics teacher from Portland, Oregon. He has a bachelor in physics from Harvey Mudd College, a master's in mathematics, and 35 years teaching physics and high school. David, are you online? We'll come back to David, and we'll be doing all... David has performed an analysis here. Here he is on video, and hopefully he'll be back by this time. Take a look.
In August of 2008, NIST released the final draft for public comment of their analysis of the collapse of World Trade Center Building 7. They claimed in that report that Building 7 came down 40% slower than Freefall. To support their calculation, they gave the height of the 29th floor and the height of the roof line of the building measured from some baseline. Their measurement was completely erroneous and based on transparently false assumptions. However, I was able to use their height measurements to do my own analysis with a valid method. I used software designed for use in a physics classroom that could track the motion of an object frame by frame. I marked the position of the northwest corner of the building at intervals of 0.2 of a second. From that data, I was able to compute the downward velocity as a function of time. The slope of a velocity versus time graph gives the acceleration. Measuring the slope, I found it to be 9.88 meters per second squared, which is within 1% of the acknowledged acceleration of gravity. So for the first 2.5 seconds, the motion of the building was indistinguishable from absolute freefall. The building fell down through its own structure with zero resistance. There would normally be tremendous resistance, but in this case, it was somehow removed. If something is dropping at freefall, it is converting all of its potential energy into kinetic energy. There is no extra energy available to do anything else. All of the breaking, bending, crushing, and throwing things around had to be done using some other energy source. The energy for that activity could not have come from the free-falling building. During that 2.5 seconds of absolute freefall, the building fell through 8 floors or over 100 feet. I made my measurements public on YouTube, and a number of us made official requests for NIST to correct their analysis. In the end, NIST changed the analysis in their final report to acknowledge freefall. That is tantamount to an admission that explosives were used. But NIST attempted to cloud the issue, and in defiance of all logic, continues to this day to deny the significance of that finding.
Very important. It's as if 8 stories of this building were magically, suddenly removed. There was 40,000 tons of structural steel in this building, keeping it from going anywhere. 5 times stronger than it needed to be to hold up this building for its life.
In August of 2008, NIST was claiming the building came down 40% slower than freefall, and that was completely fictitious. It's easy, it's visible, it's public, it's out in plain view. And I measured it using a simple video measuring tool, and basically showed that for the first 2.5 seconds, it came down at absolute freefall. It wasn't just even approximate, it was on the money. So I basically challenged NIST on that. In their final report, they actually acknowledged that it came down. They said 2.25 seconds of free fall. but they completely sidestepped the implications. And they simply said that this was compatible, this was consistent with their analysis. They hadn't changed their analysis between those two reports. Previously, they were saying it could not come down at Freefall, and they were making all kinds of efforts to try and make it appear that it was coming down much slower than Freefall. But in fact, yes, they did agree to the fact of Freefall, even though they denied the implications.